So this is a challenge, I think, for all artists, and it'd be interesting to apply this to luthier. Is are you
Hmm.
thinking of your audience? Are you thinking of the end player with a guitar? Because in the
Hmm.
studio system, you have to. It's such an expensive proposition to make a film. You've got to be thinking, how
Hmm.
do we get our return on our investment?
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Well, sometimes the guitar makers suffer from the anti-story. Often, when I ask a guitar maker to tell me about their guitar, they literally tell me about their guitar. They tell me about the specs of the instrument. They tell me about the the quality of screws they're using, the materials and all the specifications of the instrument, like I'm reading a an owner's manual, which very few people do. I mean, the irony of owner's manuals is that we all understand nobody reads owner's manuals, right? And so um, I often try and help guitar makers with that. And actually, a big role for what I do is often I will tell someone how I see their guitar and why it fits into what we're doing. And they'll go, "Oh, I need to write that down." You see them stop. Like, "Can you send that to me? Can you say that again?" And because they feel like that's possibly the best description they've ever heard of their instrument. And what's interesting to me is sometimes how somebody can work so closely on something for so long, because they're usually working on this for, of course, many years before I ever meet them, right? Uh, and yet um, they don't understand how it fits into the world as a part of our greater narrative, and that we connect with things through the story, not through the specifications necessarily. And the role of storytellers is interesting, and how often you tell them, stop doing that, stop talking, stop giving bullet points, stop telling
right,
all the
yes,
specifications.
yes. But
Yeah.
here's a story, okay? And when we were doing the Polonia instruments, so
Yeah.
World Tree harvested President Carter's acres of Polonia.
Yeah.
And they came up with the idea of doing the President Carter legacy collection of 12 stringed
Hmm.
instruments, mandolins, ukuleles, and guitars.
Hmm.
And a man by the name of Todd Lundgren,
Hmm.
no, no, that's the Todd. Oh, fuck. I've got to get this right. Todd Lernerberg. He went out and found luthiers to make these 12 instruments.
Okay.
And one of them was a guy called Drew Heineman, who was a tour guide on the Boundary Waters National Park on the border of the US and Canada.
Okay.
And the reason he agreed to be part of this building of the guitar was that President Carter, when he was president, signed into law the expansion of this wilderness area, protection for this wilderness area. And then
Hmm.
part of the guitar was made from a tree that had fallen in the wilderness area. And so he was using Polonia grown by President Carter with a top that was made by from spruce from a tree that had fallen in the
Hmm.
a derecho, which is this huge wind that had gone through.
Yeah.
And so he had a very personal connection to this. But the story in the guitar for President Carter was, thank you for preserving this wilderness area. Thank you for
Hmm.
promoting sustainability by growing the tree. Maybe that's a long-winded story, and I didn't tell it as well as I should have, being a storyteller. But it was a very
Yeah. Yeah.
personal connection to President Carter, who, when he heard the story, otherwise he's just getting a guitar, right? But
Sure.
when he heard the
Yeah.
story of what this man had put into it and the reason, the choices he'd made, it was quite
Yes.
emotional for him to receive that.
Yeah.
Just quickly, I know I'm going on about Carter, but there was another guitar made by
Hmm.
Jason
Hmm.
Costell in Arizona, also made
Yes.
of Polonia. And
Hmm.
Jason is an army man, Carter
Hmm.
was a navy man, and there's a great
Hmm.
rivalry between the two in terms of
Right.
sports. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
in the design of Jason's guitar,
Yes.
on the back, there was a series of dashes and dots, and it looked like just part of the design, but
Hmm.
it was
Hmm.
Morse code. it was Morse code. And when you read it, it said beat Navy. So the story of this rivalry, and when Carter, he just laughed so hard that someone had gone to that degree of thought to
Yeah.
code line a
Yes.
message. Well, those are the stories that you sell now.
Yeah.
So you could tell 1,000 stories about the same object, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
And there, there's lots of connection there. Jason is also produces. He makes guns. Also, he makes guns and he makes guitars, and so he's a very competent marksman. And so, anyways, it's yeah, he's not shy about talking about it. It's not normally promoted, but he does let people know that. And so, um, to understand Jason Kossel and to understand his instruments, is to partly understand his history as a American veteran, for sure.
right.
That's part of his story for sure. And he regularly tells those stories when he's asked to speak at symposiums and such. In fact, I recently was with Jason at the Northwood seminar, and Jason was telling the story about, yeah, falling in
About the
helicopters and being shot,
oh
and
god.
many of those stories, but the military always comes up in his stories nonetheless, and so, but that's part of the narrative of how you connect to Jason Kossel and whether you care about those things or not, and why you might choose to. And thank you for watching and listening. You can find more episodes wherever you listen to your podcasts, and a special thanks to those who support us on Patreon. It's your support that enables us to do this work.